And there was a post I didn't put out. Maybe I'll look for it and find it and put it out with this one. But it was basically saying I didn't care what they were called. Meaning, some people would say that I'm talking with aliens, ghosts, angels, guides, spirits. I forget everything I said in there, but that you get the idea. And it's energy. We're all energy. And I talk about it in ways where I'm just translating what they're showing me, how I understand it. And we all are doing this all the time, some consciously, some unconsciously. And it's the idea of where I've said, you think you got a brilliant idea and you're claiming it's yours, and it's not. We're just vessels. But you choose your vibration by how much you love your vessel, how much you love yourself, how much you love your soul. And so, the more you love yourself, the more you honor yourself, it's like you get upgraded to higher vibrations. So the more you're, choosing to do what feels amazing for you, whether it's learning, studying, exploring, like whatever it is, you have to love you and really tap in and tune into you to know and to then do that. And the more you're doing that, the more you're honoring you and your soul, and you're being honest and true. And so you keep elevating. You get higher vibrations, higher deity, higher angels, higher guides, higher ghosts, higher spirits, higher aliens, whatever you want to call it, right? It's all energy. And it's different forms of energy. And it's energy that people don't understand. And so... there's a lot that was coming through, so I'm trying to have me floating right now, it feels like. That's what it really does feel like that. I don't know how else to describe it. There was so much coming through that had it like to verbalize it, it would almost sound like, I would consider it more like alien talk, because it does feel like I'm flying in a spaceship. And things were coming through where it was like we really are all side by side, but in different universes. So I know we've talked about this before, but I feel like it's never verbalized in a way that people get it or believe it, or understand it, where it is like we're all layered or overlapping here. And you can get bumped into other realms where it is kind of like, how the fuck did I get here? This was not my world a minute ago. And it's like, well, where weren't you loving yourself? And it's like, don't get tripped up too much on that, because you'll waste time and energy. Just start loving yourself again so you can, quote, rise again. But it is kind of like that as well. I say quote, but it's also literal. I mean, it's all of it. This is why it's hard to verbalize it. And think of it this way. This might be like an easy visual or understanding. It's not exactly accurate, but it's a good way to, I think, verbalize it to help you conceptualize a little bit. Think of like very famous people, or it's like people you know about, but you will never encounter in your life, right? You're in a totally different playing field than them. You are not likely to ever bump into them, run into them. You might see them or come across them for some odd reason. I say odd, but I mean, there's a lot of famous people that you can go to their concerts or go to their speeches or go to their, do you know what I mean? So I don't mean that. I mean, like, you personally having a relationship with them is not likely, right? You encountering them in a social gathering where you are friends with them is not likely, because you are not on that same vibrational match. And so if you can think of it that way and see it that way, it's like understanding that there's so many different circles or universes where they live in an entirely different world than you, but literally, right? Like their day-to-day life, their world, their mentality, their exposure, their experience, their all these things is a completely different, it does not resonate with you at all, and vice versa. And not always vice versa, because they could have come from below and risen up, right? So, they might have experienced that, and that's why they ran to get, better themselves, love themselves, honor themselves, to elevate themselves. And, but see how it's hard to verbalize this, because it doesn't mean you're bad or wrong, but it also doesn't mean that they're lucky and good. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like we end up just labeling things or misinterpreting things based on how they're explained, which can be really challenging when your intent is more to inform so people can understand that you have more control than you realize and you have less control than you realize. It's like you have more control in ways that you didn't realize you had, and you have less control in ways that you thought you had. And the simplest way to boil that down, for me anyway, and how they teach me, is you have to fully love and accept yourself and embrace yourself and your soul's journey and want it to be magnificent, and you want to focus on that and create that and not get distracted by the world around us that is forever trying to grab at our time and attention, energy and money. And they're all the same, right? Like time is attention, attention is time, and energy is money, money is energy. And so you really have to be devoted to you and the life you want, and you have to be committed to creating that and not stopping, and never giving up on you. And it is like you can bump into an entirely different universe. It's just, it can sound so sci-fi, and it can sound, it's like all this information's always been around, and it's always been being translated in many different ways, and many people are interpreting many different ways. Like you look at the Bible, a lot of that, I believe was, all those different quote prophets, right? They were all dealing with different energies. Some of them the same, some not so much. And so they don't know that. They don't realize what's coming through to them, what's being transmitted to them, or who's transmitting it to them. But because it's new to them, and they didn't experience it that way before, understand it that way before, they called it God, right? And if you read through it, you can hear the different translations. And I've shared it with you where, when it says Lord, it's your higher self. When it says God, it's the highest vibration of all. But even in that interpretation, that's why that word gets butchered so much. It's like, well, they could have been idolizing or praising a God that was the highest love that they were able to reach, but it wasn't the outermost reach. They just thought it was because it was the highest they ever reached, so they were certain of it. It felt beyond magical, right? We've talked about this so many times where it's like the highest vibration you've ever reached is going to feel magical, and you're going to call that God. But then if you bust through to another layer, you're like, holy shit, what the hell was that then? And what the hell is this? And then you do it again and again and again, and you keep doing it. And you're like, now what the hell? What? And so then the very first time you thought it was unconditional love or God or source or Allah or the highest vibration or whatever your word is, you then realize, oh, that wasn't even close to where you are now. And it could be because you formed a better relationship, or it could be because you moved up in the ranks, so to speak. And yet, depending on the terminology you're familiar with, some of this could sound wackadoodle or sci-fi, or some of it could make complete sense, because we're all saying the same thing, but at different translations, different understandings. And again, you could think you're talking to God because, again, it's the highest you've ever reached. And, just forget this language, but say I'm at a much higher ranking, a higher vibration, I'm able to see it from a much higher vantage point. I can look down and say, oh my God, you're conversing with the devil. You're dealing with the devil, and you think it's God. So in other words, that would be my bottom. That would be my base. That would be the lowest. So we would call it the devil. We would call it a demon. We would call it lower. We would call it less than. And it's not. It's just the highest you've reached. And because it's the highest you reached, you think it's bliss. So you think it's bliss dealing with that energy, that level, that whatever. And I can see that it's so much further down than I'd like for you, right? But you have to like it for you. You have to want better. You have to keep pushing through. But it can be challenging. And this is why. Because you believe that you're chatting with God or dealing with God or praying to God or translating God. Depending on where your frequency is, you really believe that. And so you don't want to go against that. That's the best you've ever known, right? And if you're very religious, you wouldn't want to be disobedient, right? Like all these things will come into play. And so it will be your ceiling, but it is keeping you chained and bound. So it is like your devil's keeping you stuck. But you don't see it that way at all. You see that as God, you see? And so I'm not saying it's easy, right? Because as I've busted through levels, it has been really challenging based on what I just described. Like there had been times where I really thought it was, because it was the highest I had certainly ever reached, and it felt so pure and good that it was like, I can't go against this. This is so pure and good. But I kept also getting the guidance to do such. And some even would kick me out. You've heard me joke about that so much, it's like, no, you're past this. You got to go on. You've graduated. And so, it is all love on that other side, but it's to teach you and for you to elevate, but you have to want it. You have to want it. You have to really love yourself and honor yourself, but you have to know what that means, right? You could hear this and be like, I want it. And you'll push away the highest energy you've ever received. No, you have to learn from them. You have to get through that gate. You have to go through that portal. You have to get through that gateway. You have to get through that test. You have to get through that, however you want to say it, but you don't get to just say it and skip above just because you want it and say it. It's like you have to mean it. You have to know it. You have to experience it. You have to show it. You have to honor it. You have to pass it. It is like you have to bust through that gateway is the best way I can explain it. And it does feel like test at times because it can be challenging, because it is kind of like a mind fuck, like I'm saying, because at one point you really believed that was more than as good as it gets. You thought it was magical. And so you wouldn't ever want to turn your back on what you were idolizing. You were praising that energy, that God, that entity, and not realizing it's not the highest vibration of all. And depending on where you are on the scale, like when you start this journey, you might be dealing with the devil himself, right? You might be at the lowest of the lowest of the lowest of the lowest of energy. And so it's going to take you a really long time to get really far up and to normalize each layer along the way. Because again, you if you're down in the depths of hell and you even get one level up, you're going to be like, holy shit, I've made it to heaven, right? Because it's going to feel so much better than you've ever experienced. And so then you could get stuck there, and it's like, don't get stuck there. You have a million more levels to bust through. And so it can be challenging because you're like, what do you mean? This is phenomenal, until you experience better. So it's like you want to honor yourself, love yourself, know where you're at, accept where you're at, integrate, learn all these things, be conscious, be awake, but also recognize there is always more and better. There is always higher and greater. And the control you have, the choice you have, is to love yourself, to honor yourself. It is the idea of be a vessel for unconditional love, meaning you are a vessel. And so you have to love and honor your vessel and set it up where your mind and your body, your nervous system is all cooperating and receptive to receive unconditional love. And so you have to keep, upping through the ranks, so to speak. I know this I think is the best way I can explain it, where it's like, so you can visualize it and understand it. I hope I'm making sense to you. If you want to feel amazing and if you want to experience these things, many people don't even care, don't want to run into this, or, oh, look at that, they've already come to, I was seeing people in my yard. I was wondering what was going on. Okay, I'm going to jump off. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening. You can now purchase an audio journey with me using the link below.